scary movies?
Uh-huh.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat! Tell me where you are, John!
Wolfman's got Nards.
Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to my best of episodes, and today we're going to be talking about Scream from 1996. First of all, let's talk about the cast. Now the cast was almost unknown, every single person, apart from Neve Campbell, who was in Party of Five, and obviously Courtney Cox, who was in Friends, but everyone else was almost unknown apart from those two, and even those two were just in TV shows, albeit they were quite big for the 90s, but everyone else, I didn't even know who they were. I didn't even know who Neve Campbell was because I didn't watch Party of Five, but I enjoyed everyone's performances. Characters aside, if you just look at everyone as actors and actresses, I think that maybe the standouts for me in the acting department were probably Courtney Cox and maybe Billy Loomis. Obviously Skeet Ulrich, but everyone else was still good. I just think there was certain people that were standouts. Next up, we've got relatable characters. We all think we know and love horror movies more than everyone else, and I think that's why we love some of the characters in this movie, because you've got characters like Randy, who does know a lot about horror films and he thinks he is the best, and we put ourselves in his shoes. I think he's the character that most of us latch onto. He might not be our favourite character, but he is the one that we're most related to, so they are relatable characters in that aspect. Even characters like Billy Loomis, before we found out he was the killer, of course, we wanted to be like him. We wanted to be that bad boy that was possibly innocent, but he always got the girl, and he was a cool guy, he had the cool hair from the mid-90s, so there's always someone for everyone in Scream. The film was of course meta. Now this wasn't new to Wes Craven, but it was certainly new to me anyway. Wes Craven gave us a meta movie 2 years prior with New Nightmare featuring Freddy Krueger, but this one was a little bit more realistic in terms of the way they went with the meta aspect. They referenced horror movies throughout the film, horror movies that a lot of diehard fans would know the answers to, but a lot of people would have to think about as well. So you've got that trivial brain running throughout the film.
Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason! Jason! Jason!
A lot of the ideas were of course thanks to Kevin Williamson's brilliant writing. Whodunit. Now Whodunit has been around for quite some time, but I think that part of horror movies disappeared back in the 80s. So when the 90s came and horror movies were going down the drain, they brought back Scream, they brought back a film that gave us that whodunit film, so that means that we get to take part throughout the whole movie. As a 13-year-old kid watching this film, I probably shouldn't have watched it, but I did. As a 13-year-old, it was an absolute dream come true to be able to take part in the guessing game all the way through to the end of the movie. The guessing game was quite tight as well, and it was very smart, and again that's thanks to the writing by Kevin Williamson, but I just think that when you watch films that are whodunit movies back in the 80s, you kind of know who it is, or it's impossible to find out who it is. For example, Pamela Voorhees in Friday the 13th, you were just never going to guess it was her because she was never ever seen in the movie until the big reveal at the end, whereas in this one, the killers were hidden in plain sight. Let's talk about the reveal. Now Stu was always a possibility right up until he was revealed to be one of the killers in the movie. So Stu was kind of a given for me anyway. But then when you look at Billy Loomis, he was a character that he looked too obvious to be the killer. And then it went through this phase throughout the film where we think he's a killer, and then they debunk that with something else, and then we think he's a killer again, and then Ghostface actually kills and stabs Billy Loomis, so we think obviously it's not Billy Loomis, and then it comes back around to Billy Loomis again. I think that's a great reveal because we're always suspecting Billy, and then it's not him, and then it's him, and then it's not him, and then the big reveal was actually it was him. So Stu and Billy, it's a really good combination of knowing who it is and thinking you know who it is. Mix that with the big shock that there was two killers, because Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson made this movie on the basis that we think it's one killer. That's the way they wrote this film, to make us think there's one killer throughout the entire film, like there is in most whodunit movies back in the 80s. But then when they reveal that it was two killers, we're thinking, oh, okay then. Let's talk about Ghostface and Ghostface's costume. Back in 1996, I didn't think we were ever going to see a horror icon again, and anytime we saw a film that had a good character in it, they came and went and there was no sequels, or at least there was no good sequels. But with Scream, that's different. You know, back then you had Michael Myers, you had Jason Voorhees, you had Leatherface, you had Chucky. You know, those were the 4 big hitters. But then Ghostface came along, and I think what you need with a really good villain is a good story, which we got with Scream, and a really good costume. And I think the Ghostface costume and Ghostface himself mixes himself and blends himself with some of the killers of the good old days. You've got this runner, so it's not someone who walks around, so you are scared because it is a human. Although it's a human and you can kill this person, because it's a human, they can run, they can think. Ghostface is a really smart character, we obviously know that throughout the movies. And then you've got that costume itself as a ghost. It's almost like Michael Myers. It's the pale, blank, emotionless face, and you don't get to see the eyes, the devil's eyes. So I think with Ghostface and the costume, you get the best of both. Scream will continue to defy time as the years go by. It will always remain in pop culture as a fantastic horror film. Ghostface will always remain in pop culture as well as being one of the best villains of all time in horror movies. That's how strong Scream has been. There have been movies that have been and gone since just before Scream and even after Scream that have just gone with a whimper, but with Scream, especially Scream 1 in 1996, that will always remain. I see people today who weren't even born in 1996 and they tell me that Scream is their greatest horror movie. It's kind of like me with Halloween. I wasn't born when the original Halloween came out, and that to me is the greatest horror movie ever made. And I can see and I can feel the passion that goes into people that were born after 1996 and they say Scream is the greatest horror movie ever made. I don't disagree with them because Scream is an absolutely amazing horror film, and I can feel the passion that's coming from these people, the same kind of passion that I have for Halloween. We're from different generations, so obviously we'll have a different nostalgic feeling towards each movie that we see depending on when we were born and what movies were coming out. But Scream will always defy that time. It will always stand the test of time, and it will always remain as one of the greatest horror movies ever made. So thanks for joining me on my best of series, guys. I will continue to do this. I'm not going to do it very often because I will be talking about films that I've spoken about time and time again, and I just really want to celebrate the best of movies. I don't want to talk about all the bad things in these films that we see time and time again. And in my best of series, I'm not always going to be talking about films that only have greatest moments and they have very little weaknesses. I will talk about films that aren't the best, but I will be talking about their best moments, so stay tuned for that. But if there's anything else that I missed about Scream and your best of moments, leave them down below and we can share our feelings, share our memories of the best of moments of Scream. As always, guys, thanks a lot for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.